The revolution will not be televised.
All right, all right. Thank you once again. We are back on a little hiatus. Things were kind of real, and
Good word.
good to be back in the house, so to speak. And welcome to another Rejected Stone podcast, and brought to you by Rejected Stone Productions, a place where we have real talk in real time about real issues. And I probably messed up that opening a little bit, but that's all right because we can edit things out and say it again. But for the most part, we are here. So I am Dr. Jarvis Watson, and I am strongly supported by my brother. Say your name, brother.
And I'm Dr. Zebulon Maletsky. Glad to be in the house. Glad to be back in the house. You know, just getting back, testing the waters, as they say, getting back.
Yeah, there's a lot of waters that have been tested, man. I think we have been tested. There's a saying that goes with a certain brotherhood I'm with. I have been tried, and I'm ready to be tried again. And that is the testament of 2020. And we have seen the waters being tested by not just some folk that have been out in the street, trying to take us out, man. Trying to take people out. But I think it's coming from the highest office in the country, brother. It is.
Speak on it.
Man, it's another type of tiredness. It's another type of frustration. It's another type of way of becoming more clear and developing a sense of clarity in regards to what your purpose is in this world based off what we've been seeing. And I mean, we're gonna talk a little bit about some of those things. So this may go on for 2 hours or so. Man,
yeah, and the chances are, if that's how we're feeling, that's what we've been feeling, and appraising the situation. You know, folks out there, you know, listening, hearing this, I'm quite sure there's a lot of people been going through the same kind of things. You know, and so that's why it's a chance, you know, it's like there's that process, that part of it where you have to just get together, compare notes. Not everything is a movement, moment, you know, flank movement. So,
right.
It's time to like just check in and see where people are at. I've been on a lot of calls. People are asking, how are you? How are you doing? How are you? How are you?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that's important right now.
Yeah, I guess we could start off with that question. I was on another webinar too, and they started off like asking that question. So I would say for you, my brother, because I know you have been doing a lot of great things, moving into some new territory, which I'm really glad to always see my brother rising and seeing them accomplish great things, and that just gives me inspiration to keep moving and doing some stuff. But I don't know if you want to share what's been going on, how you doing, how you holding up, brother.
Yeah, thank you. You know, who would have thought just how are you became such a complicated question out here. You know, but it's you know, I appreciate that. I truly do, and you know, your words as well. You know, I'm hanging in there. I'm glad to be, you know, the other side to this moment is like things get put in perspective quickly. You know, it's like, you know, you think about people who've been lost and stuff like that. You're like, I'm out here, I'm breathing, I'm walking, I'm, you know, have my able-bodied and all that stuff. So it's important, you know. Sometimes we just have to really like just keep it, make it simple, you know. Come back to the basics, you know, because even breathing now is obviously something on so many levels is not taken for granted. So you know, just appreciating more things, you know, breathe in the fresh air and be out there.
Yeah.
And so just taking moments like that, you know, I think it's self-care. I heard people say this all the time. They say self-care, you know, you think, oh, they're just saying that. No, it's like, it's key. It's a key thing, because if you go down, you know, out of so many possible crossroads and roads that you can, you know, that lead to exhaustion points, for some that end up becoming like, that's when you're calling in and saying, I can't do it, I'm not gonna be. So trying to just, you know, self-care, keep things within balance. You know, balance is so key. You know, and that just looks like for me, like, you know, spending time with my family. You know, working in the, you know, punching in those hours of time and labor. You know, when they're not up, you know, that's time to work on stuff. Get a quiet moment. Try to just, so anyway, with all that said, so you know, a few things happening coming up. You know, well, for one thing, I got tenure at Stony Brook, and so that was like,
man, I'm not sure how we can put this in later,
early,
but we
too
need
early in the
to
show.
claps, brother. That's another brother with tenure.
Yes,
man, stamp it, man.
happy to join that fraternity out here. You know,
Real.
so
Oh
thank
man.
you know, and you know, you and I know how much all that means for both of us. And I remember when you came through, and so to cross that line finally, you know, and everything feels very good. And so it's but you know, it's humbling as well, because you know the responsibility goes, you know, that much further again, to not tip over. Got to keep this thing together, you know. So that's really what I've been doing.
Man, praises due to the Most High on your. Like I said, I was trying not to say it while we were on. Like I said, I'm gonna let him announce that. But like I said, man, things like that, man. Just you don't know how proud I am. Even we are, you know, as far as family and other brothers in the struggle, so to speak, to meet these milestones, and to still be breathing, and to still be able to say congratulations, because it seems like we're giving a lot of accolades to those who have passed on, or we're marching in the streets for those who've been taken out. But if we can kind of really recognize those individuals like yourself who are making these accomplishments, think about what that means for the people who come into your class and who come into my office. And I can share that with them. Hey, guess what? You know what tenure means? Well, listen, why don't you ask Dr. Tenure Mletsky what that means, because you all need to understand. It's like there's a pathway here. There's opportunities here. And so it's we changed that number just a slight bit. So when I look at those statistics now, it's like, all right, I know that. I know why it went up a 0.01%, because I know that brother. So anytime we can move that needle, man. So once again, man, kudos, congratulations, and man, all right, let's get into the meat of everything. Where do we want to start? I know we want to talk about this Electoral College, but
This, you know, I mean, I think like, you know, we hear a lot, you know, in the media, we hear there's a lot of frustrations too, I think, you know, out there with the way that information is shared sometimes. um, People are really looking for what they, you know, used to call news you could use, you know.
right,
um, uh, Give me the speaking, you know, of the meat and all that, like, you know, come to the heart of the matter. What do I need to know, so that, you know, so that we can move forward. And so, you know, I think, yeah, it's key. Just remember a couple of things. You know, one, that the current sitting president was elected through the Electoral College. That's an important distinction. That's an important thing to say, because, you know, notice and they were reporting on this with the Republicans, the RNC convention. They're not really trying to reach so many undecided voters. If they get some, then they'll take them, but they're really targeting that message toward their base. And I don't think there's ever been a president that's quite governed ever like that before, where he's not trying to be a president for all people. He is being a president for a select amount that can, in key states, that could lead to another path toward, victory with even losing the popular vote.
Right.
So it's I was like, that's a very unique strategy. So keeping that in mind, where are Biden and Harris hopefully reaching some of those areas? Do they have a map that tells them and says, these are the areas that we lost
exactly, yeah,
and look at 2018 as well.
Yeah, because I think that we get so caught up in this popular vote, and we want everybody to go out and vote. But I think what for us is, well, I'm gonna say for me as a Democrat, the strategy portion, I don't think is shared as much. I think later on, as we close out, we want to share some information, and you can go to our Facebook page and actually see some of the things that have been shared by a good friend of mine, Raina Simon, about how to vote early, how to vote by mail. It's like you don't even have to wait until the voting day. You could actually get your stuff in a little bit earlier, and nobody really knows that. But it's like, once again, now that you know that you can do that, how do you strategize and how do you make sure you get to the polls in that particular way? But to your point, Doc, why are we not taking the same approach and making sure that we lay things out to those constituents that really want to make sure we have this change in office, and we want to make sure that we don't have another 4 years of the buffoonery that we see right now?
Right. I mean, yeah, exactly. I think that's critical, and there's all kinds of efforts happening. There's a lot of good things getting those kinds of messages out to people. But I think these days, it's not enough to just say vote. You have to encourage,
right?
Why, and does, if mail-in voting helps make it a little bit to make that move you maybe never have done in a while,
right.
And it's worthwhile. It's worth doing. But also with clear understanding that those votes are under attack, right? The Postal Service and all this stuff that's happening, mail-in voting. This is so. I don't know how many people have ever actually been in an actual fight, but some people fight dirty. The throw the dirt in your eye kind of thing.
Definitely.
But what do you do? Do you give up because of that, or do you find a way around it and a way to win? Anyway, that's what we have to do. Because
yeah, man. And let's talk about that dirty fighting. The sand in the eye kind of situation. When I saw the news in regards to they were moving mailboxes or the post office boxes, I'm like, when has this ever, even to go back a notch, they said, well, this is something we do on a regular basis. When you see certain things change, they take the mailboxes away. I'm like, I've never witnessed or even heard in mine. I know I'm only like 40-something years old, but when have you ever seen that happen in such a calculated and in a strategic way to making sure that certain mailboxes don't show up in certain people's neighborhoods,
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just like, that's why, we have to trust what our eyes are seeing, as unbelievable as it may be, trust that instinct that, hey, I heard over here that mail-in voting and stuff like that is a problem, with something that, like, the sitting administration doesn't want. And then over here in my neighborhood, I'm seeing them take the post office, the mailboxes, or we've all seen the same pictures on Facebook, huge trucks with like a whole bunch of mailboxes and stuff. There's a connection there. That's the dirt. That's the dirt. That is the sand in your eye right there. Like, and then and it stuns you for a minute, but you got to wipe it out. And like, what are we going to do to get around that? Right. I mean, I think that we honestly have to, for some folks, really consider, like, those who can is probably going to vote in person if you can. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a tough one. You're gonna have to fight.
I was thought about that. We were kind of conversing about this before when we kind of did the pre-production kind of conversation, and I'm thinking back in the day, were there caravans that people got together? Like, I'm thinking about it once again. We talk about the Black church and we also are aware that we are in times of COVID and social distancing. But are there ways of helping people get to the polls in ways that, without saying Democrat or Republican, but just having some type of transportation or some type of mechanism that makes sure people get to the polls if they can't get there physically? Because everybody has different challenges, but this is where community comes in. And I think one of my good colleagues and mentors and friends, Teresa Sanders, always talks about pivoting. Figure out, once again, all right, if we remove the mailbox here, okay, who else can I give this to that I trust, or what else can I do to kind of get into a vehicle to get somewhere? If I can't do that, hey, once again, we'll show you another way that you can actually get your things into the polling sites, even the day of, where you can still have your vote counted. And I think that if we don't continue to communicate with each other about these things that are happening, and what we'll try to do as we upload this to next week, lead to some other podcasts and webinars and seminars that are actually helping putting all this information together, so you'll know, like, all right, if this obstacle is in my way, there's another way for me to go. And I think that Raina, once again, shared with me, there's like a collective group of individuals that are going to have conversations about how to,
Yeah, I'm hearing those conversations too.
Yeah.
The word is getting out there. It's a lot of steps, you can take. It just, I think for those who really want to vote by mail, there is a follow-up step that you can take to ensure that
Right.
your vote was counted. And that would be the way to do that.
Yeah, just for example, like she just said, we'll put this in the, maybe we'll get a chance toward the end to kind of put this up. But this year you can vote 3 ways. You can vote early, Saturday, October 24th to Sunday, November 1st. I did not know that. You can go to your polling sites and do that. We actually did that the last election for primaries. Vote by mail, request by October 27th, and return by November 3rd. And the last part is just going to the polls on November 3rd. So if you can't get to the mailbox, hey, start scheduling your time right now to make sure you get to the polling site. So get your stuff in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, just leading to another point, we if what we're saying is true, that this administration governs in that kind of way where they're really only worried about half the country, right? There's like half the country. We can stay in office that way.
Yeah.
I was talking to a good friend of mine recently. I was talking about Mayweather, the way Mayweather fights. Sometimes it's like he got a very specific style that's
Right.
hard to sit around. He's not worried about, but he wins, right? Money team out here. So it's I think it's like how do you and I'm not comparing them to Trump or anything, but how do you like fight back with a fighter that has a very specific style.
All right. So I think man, it's something my mom always says. She says, learn the rabbit's habits. And know also, once you learn the habits, just realize they're going to change up on you again. So it's almost like instead of being a checkers player, you got to be a chess player and start to figure out what is the motivation behind these individuals that are in office. What's the current situation that's going on? For example, like in about another 5 or 10 years, this is going to be a very beige, brown, black type of country. Is this about the preservation of what we're looking at as like white supremacy or whiteness? Is this looking at, like you said, and not to even make any type of stretching in this, but if you're talking about making America great again, like who's America?
Yeah.
Who's America? You
Well,
know?
yeah. 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 I think that's it. It's that kind of, like you said it. You said it really well, and that bubble effect. Well, anyway, the point is to stop. We need to stop being so astonished by some of the outlandish. You know, hey, a president can't do that. President can't say that. No, there's really never been another president that did well. I won't say never, but now we're talking about a very different kind of governing and a different kind of
Right.
and probably have to go back to 19th century. Think about leading up to the Civil War. As the division. And so in a divided, we all agree that we're politically divided. So in a divided time, this kind of government is possible during a divided time of division that we're in right
Yeah, yeah. So I think the thing that concerns me, maybe I haven't seen it because I've been looking for it. I haven't seen the counter, and I go specifically when I'm as we look at like kind of erasing or getting, not even erasing, I would say being more specific about the lack of dialogue and discourse, to getting rid of the diversity trainings or diversity education.
now.
Specifically pointing out at critical race theory, which is all about identifying racism as a common part of America, but also this act of counter storytelling that is provides opportunity to kind of say the narrative was this way for so long, but based off of things that we have observed, whether from a qualitative or empirical kind of way, um, this is our truth that we can speak, we have agency on, that we can kind of share with you. And the fact that someone's trying to eradicate that is splitting things way down the middle. So for people who don't even know what CRT is, I think it's going to be in the same way that they have a misnomer with Black Lives Matter. You know, not even you don't even have to make it Black Lives Matter like a metaphor for anything. It just says it right there. Black Lives Matter. We're not. This is not some type of like military thing that we're trying to do against the machine. It's like, hey, stop killing us. Our Black Lives Matter. So CRT is helping people understand that yes, um, our lives matter and they have mattered. And let me tell you about the systemic things that have been happening to me, whether it be law, education, justice, um, healthcare, all these things that help to have this counter narrative to what is really going on, so people can really understand. Like, hey, we have for a long time we have been receiving um, oppressive, um, systemic degrading of our culture, of our livelihoods, of our will to live at some particular points, and to the fact that you're going to take money away because people are trying to tell the truth, not alternative facts.
Well,
Yeah,
it's I know it's astonishing in a lot of ways. It's like, but look at what a society bans, right? Look at what any society like makes illegal or makes it's a and it'll tell you the progress that one particular idea apparently is making, because
right.
uh, for them to pinpoint that so specifically, you know,
Yeah,
I think was shocking to a lot of people. And but it also speaks to, I guess, the power of, not I guess, but obviously to the power of critical race theory, which a lot of us have been talking up and trying to use and trying to be part of and trying to implement, in our work for many years. So
yeah,
I was, yeah, it's still like a mind blower in a way. But but uh, I also thought, when you were saying about Dr. Krista Fleming, who
right.
was breaking it down the other day,
Respect. Yeah,
and the teaching, my gosh, the
yeah,
scholars strike teaching, which took place on Wednesday. Um, what it'll be, Wednesday, that was Wednesday this week, but um, was an amazing, testimonial. And she talked about Derek Bell, the late Derek Bell, who, was pretty much one of the originators of this critical race theory at Harvard Law School, and had Barack Obama as a student. That was deep.
I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Obama was one of his students, you know, and so the power of a critical race theory, you know, in so many ways is evident, you know, and they're sort of connecting that. I don't know if I'm sure they're connecting that up through Obama, and they're connecting that up through the sophistication of Black Lives Matter and the fact that it's reached worldwide and been so effective. How is this happening?
Interesting, man. I just picked up one of his books on my pile.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it comes out the right way. Yeah, because it's kind of backwards here, but
it is. It was good.
Yeah, but I learned about it. I think I was like maybe 2 people away from meeting him before he passed away, and the president of, was it Bennett College? I met her. Was it Bennett? Bennett at the time, and she was like good friends with him, and it was like, man, that was a total loss, almost in the same way we lost John Lewis. That was that type of loss, because he was at City College, I believe, at one particular point.
Yeah, so, he moved around after that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think, to my other point, was that where are the counter, in the aspect of counter narratives, where are the counter arguments to what he just kind of put out, to the executive order that he just put out, number 45? I think that's more scary to me than what he actually put out there. So I'm not sure if you heard of any kind of like rebuttal, or like, we're going to stand up and fight against this kind of stuff. So,
well, I mean, I know that there have been efforts to put, you know, at Stony Brook to organize it. There's a certificate program, for instance, in critical race theory that's on the verge of being approved and stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been working really hard on it. So, you know, so you got to wind at your back, in a sense of a lot of hard work already done.
Yeah.
And then you know, and so there's that effect. You know, I wonder, does the president realize how kind of ridiculous it is to like make such a pronouncement in the first place? You know, but it's, you know, it's kind of like, you know, President Wilson, for example, you know, segregated the any government jobs and that kind of thing, segregated the government at the time.
Yeah.
So it's within his purview in the executive branch to make such trainings, you know, to cancel them or whatever. It's just making a point. It's communication. You know, that's a way, you know, we may feel like, oh, all that's happening so far away has nothing to do with us, or he's just kind of crazy and stuff. That shows, no, it's not crazy. There's a method to the madness, and it's like a telephone call.
Right.
Hello, you know, you know, I see what you're doing. Here's my statement on it. So yeah, so you're absolutely right. What is the counter back? And I don't think that part is still being formulated, but we saw the closest to it probably at that teach-in. You know, that's a bunch of folks utilizing that power.
I have to say that I don't think I was any more prouder, you know, other than when I graduated, to be a part of Stony Brook than that day, man. It was really, and some of the stuff we did with Black History Month and Hispanic Heritage Month, but to see our faculty, and if anybody realizes, like, in regards to numbers, there's not a lot of us in the fight in regards to like being Black and faculty, but to know that even though it was like 4 or 5 individuals spoke with the power of 400 or 500, and it's not so much how many people say certain things, is like about the amount of people who say the right thing. And all I can do is really just resonate on a few things I saw, and I hope that it was recorded, because I have to go back and do some homework.
Yeah, we all it was sophisticated. Yeah, it was. I think they did record. Yeah. Well, you know, it was really inspired by the NBA and what athletes have been doing. You know, you know, athletes who have used their position to make a loud noise. This is another thing that's incredible, and that's when you really know that, right, right must be on your side when this many people are feeling this sort of way and willing to make bold, moves like that and statements out here, risking potentially things and jobs and life, family, so and everything.
Yeah.
Tells you enough is enough, and I think that's the message loud and clear. And to ignore that message or try to like act like, you can twist words and do all that, but the reality is this is a wind that's moving through the country and in the world of change. And if you're on the wrong side of it when it comes, you're gonna be on the wrong side of valor. That whole
Yeah. Yeah. We actually had a conversation with some of the student athletes today. They're going to be putting out a really great podcast on S. Stoneybrook in regards to, just making sure that for those that are out there in the social distance world, that they realize that the university has their back on certain things. But they were talking about the protests that the NBA did, but how little they were talking about the WNBA.
thing.
Now, the WNBA actually took it to another level where they were having Black Lives Matter on the court and things like that. But when the unfortunate shooting of Jacob Blake happened, the amount of speed they took to create T-shirts that had the bullet holes, I guess, airbrushed or I don't know what's the process, screened onto those T-shirts, and they turned around so everybody could see. And all I could think about was Emmett Till's mom making sure the casket was open to make sure people understood how grotesque these acts were against her son, who was barely a teenager. And sometimes they kind of talk about the character of the person, or I think a football player was shot out. I think Brian Urlacher was shot out in regards to like saying that he was a so and so and he was going for a knife, and it was like, where's the decency? And I think the dignity that comes along with like knife, gun, threat, little threat, and the fact that these women once again stood up in the ways I see women right now out there in the streets protesting and demonstrating. Once again, your livelihood is at stake. Your family's at stake. Once you come outside that bubble, you don't know what's going to happen to you. Because for those who are not paying attention to sports, NBA and WN players are actually at in Orlando at one of Disney's resort places where they're actually making a makeshift arena,
Right. Yeah.
where they can't, they have to stay in this bubble for X amount of days until they finish. But to know that, they're away from family and things like that, but the passion and the risk that I think even you all as a faculty took this week to say and do the right thing, man, that's
It was cool.
it's powerful, man. So
Very, yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. But anyway, so that, yeah, that's gonna be one to watch and keep watching, and see. I think it lets we are in a fight, and it could be a cold war. It doesn't happen every minute, but it's an ongoing struggle, for to do the right thing, as you were saying, as we would say, do the right thing, because this is I just see so many echoes of history right now. It's very hard to
right.
And historically, you know, the the like it hasn't been a good idea to be on the wrong side of black folk. That's all I'm saying. It just hasn't been. It has not been, you know, this is not a place you want to be at, because the movements involved, the people involved, and their dreams and their hopes and stuff. It's a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And I think that wind of change is coming through again. And you may not always like exactly what it looks like, and it's messy, but uh, there's no denying, what's happening around us.
Yeah,
If
man.
we just have to connect up our thoughts. If one time you heard over here that some people are talking about civil war and trying to actively like push for that kind of division, and then over here you saw something that made you say, "Wow," or then you heard on the news, it must be true. It
Yeah,
must be true. That means it's true. They must be doing that, and so you can't go by what they say because they'll deny. We're not doing that. They'll spin it, but we know the truth, and we're not afraid to like confront it.
yeah. I think ever more so now. Like I said, I think I used the word clarity before. Never more clear about what I need to do in my position where I am, and I think I like the word truth because once you realize what the truth is, you use that as foundation to argue and to advocate and to help people to see it and to feel it and to hear it. Even in my current position, being able to communicate and articulate certain things to either my peers or my superiors about doing the right thing. Doing was not just for me, but for the benefit of this institution, and having to do the same thing with see how I take this to the community and working with people who are out there doing the right thing and making sure we make some change and trying to make sure not to the point of exhaustion, but I exhaust all of my skill set to make sure that I get the message out the best way. And I think what people have to realize, almost what Brother Jordan, Dr. Phillips was talking about, everybody has to know their position.
Yeah.
I can't tell you that I'm going to be out there on the front lines marching. I've been to a few marches here and there. But I think my job is to be not almost kind of like a witness bearer, but at the same time, making sure I bring that truth to the people or create the platform like we're doing right now to get that information out to folks. So I think the message that I guess I want to send to our listeners is wherever you are seated, wherever you are planted, blossom in that particular space. And this was told to me by a great mentor, Dr. Jordan, Al Jordan. Blossom where you are planted, and whatever that is. If you're the most vociferous, I can't. I just made up a word. If you're the most like outgoing extrovert, you need to be out in the street. Do that. If you are the person who is a strategy person, be the strategy guy. Be or a woman or a person. If you are the one who can read the law the best, and legalese, use that to your advantage. But find a place where you can thrive and make the best of it, and make sure the people that don't have it have it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's the pressures of this time. The one good part of it, it teaches you, where your lane is, what you could do best. And some people feel disconnected. Well, maybe that means, yeah, like, you got to like, work with what you can, and if everyone's lifting at the same time,
yeah,
we may just do it, and I think we will. I really do.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm excited. It's a extraordinary time. There's no doubt about it. But it's good to be, in conversation about things like that, and just to be alive. To be able to do, you know,
right,
what we can do, and fight's good fight. It's one worth fighting, but we may have to just like, just keep it going, keep our, keep it going, but shift our tactics and always be to pivot, as you said.
yeah, yeah,
That's just wisdom right there.
yeah, man. I think about it all the time, but man, I think all the part of what we got to do is make sure we restore. And I think I talked about it before. As we kind of keep fighting and swinging and pivoting and ducking and things like that, we got to make sure we go back to our corner and get restored. And I think for me is really, like I said, being with my wife and being with her family and making sure that these precious moments where you're you're laughing, you're taking the time, you're doing that self-care. Self-care should be like not a suggestion, but like I said, a necessity. I'm glad you kind of brought that up as well, because we got to make sure that we're able to sustain this and not pass on all the oppression to our young ones and to our family, but also pass on that wisdom and pass on that love and be able to observe growth and taking the small things, which are really the precious things in life, to make sure that we are paying attention to those around us who love us, and to make sure that we restore things back in them. Because, you know, you and I and others like us, we in that hustle, we're in that struggle, we're in that work. And, you know, I think our wives and families give us that space, but I think we need to make sure that we return that to them and make sure that we are keeping those bonds tight, because I think what can happen, another wise person told me this, you could be going through so much stuff and then 5 or 10 years later, like, who are you again? You know? So we don't want to miss out on those things. Don't let the struggle be so much that you don't forget about the people that are in your corner. So
Absolutely right. Yeah. Like that balance. Yeah. And so it's been a lot of things happening. I know that you were, and we had both observed. Just like every other day, some crazy, just as crazy as critical race theory and all diversity training being banned, is these constant sightings or displays of the Confederate flag. See this.
oh my gosh.
That's the delicate one, but one that's got a lot of people asking, what's going on there?
You know, that was like around the corner for me.
Okay.
I mean,
I know. Yeah.
I'm speaking of country around the corner talk, but it is up the block, up the street, up William Floyd, and it's like, wait a minute, that's right there.
This was in the news. Pretty like widely. I think got a lot of coverage. But this was if I understand it correctly, but it's the town of Brookhaven's
Fire department. Yeah.
Fire department. One of the ladders, I guess, has is it had a draping of a Confederate flag.
And I believe there was some type of like either like drill something, or they were like a parade or something small where they're just displaying the trucks. And right in the middle of the truck, we could probably add this in too if we could kind of overlay it. But the Confederate flag was flying right there, and it's like,
you saw it. Wow.
And it's like, there are these pauses that come when you're just trying to go home. It's like, man, are you serious? And I think once again, the boldness and the lack of culpability or even accountability that comes along with doing stuff like that. Like, I'm gonna do it and see what happens. Hence the title, "Testing the Waters."
Yeah,
today.
That's right.
And see a few of our buddies out there protesting and demonstrating, like, nah, we ain't having that, And kudos to Balone, supervisor, Suffolk County exec Steve Balone, who was like, not have been my county, and swiftly took care of business. Now, the two that put it on there have resigned, but I wonder what the conversation was, what the process was of putting it on there in the first place. Like, all right, here's what's going to happen,
Yeah, that's right, and that is what the title "Testing the Waters" first. That's what it was about. Is they are, testing the waters, seeing, how far can we go with this, and this here is a literal, reference to the Confederacy. You could. I love how people like try to talk themselves in and out of like all the reasons why they like the Confederate flag, but none of them have to do with race. No, it's about heritage. No, it's about this. No, it's about. But that's like right in your face. Kind of like, leaning toward that kind of, making a reference and an allusion to a war that was
Right.
brother against brother, you
Yeah.
know. And so that seems, so I think people like gotta really, that happened once in America, and no one ever thought it really could ever happen again. But it did happen before, so it can happen.
Yeah.
It can happen again. And I think we'd all be kidding ourselves if we ever really thought we had put to bed, all the issues of racism and race and so forth that are in the DNA of this country from its very beginning. So it it's like, for those of us who lived a lot of many years where these things were under wraps, it's like driving through the same places that you used to be able to, everything was cool. Now it's not as cool because um, it's pretty much in your face. I mean, they have a Trump flag with the Confederate flag mixed into it. It says Trump on it. So, I mean, it's like, I think it's pretty clear, what the signaling, again, is about. And this is why it's so dangerous and has to be, you know, really categorized as what it was and what people saw it what it was. It's a hate crime, essentially. It's not, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's like, um, I don't know, man. It's like the I'm so glad there was a quick response. And but how many other Confederate flags are flying in people's homes or on the back of their cars? Like I think even a good friend, Dr. Asare, was
Yeah.
talking about this drill team kind of thing where in the last few years you've been seeing these Confederate flags kind of pop up and logos and
Yeah,
other things.
Robert E. Lee, I think, on
Yeah,
the
like
right.
why is that here in the north? Why is that here in Long Island? Why is that in Suffolk County? Unless it was done intentionally. This didn't happen. And for you to put a logo together like that, I mean, there was some intentionality behind that
Oh yeah.
to preserve um, certain ways of life, certain ideals, certain values, so to speak, if you can call that a value. And when that's ingrained, I'm thinking, who else are you ingraining that into? Is that in your legacy behind you? Is that in the school systems that you have? Is that happening at family barbecues? Oh, we here together. Let me pull out the flag real quick. And no one is saying anything. No one is checking the other person. No one is saying ouch. No one is saying like, hey, I don't think that's right because it's a way of life. And how do you fight that in the same way that when you walk into someone's kitchen, you're not gonna tell them how to cook. I dare you tell my mother-in-law or my mom how to make some potato salad or something like that. It's like
Okay.
you get down to the Bear Grylls. Like, how you gonna tell me how to live my life, man? You got people that you telling people to pull up a mask, because you're just trying to stay safe. They come at you not just like in a barrage of words. They come back at you with some bullets and stuff. Like, whoa, just trying to make sure we're safe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when we talk about systemic racism and supremacy and things like that, this is what we're talking about. And the stuff that is part of everyday life. This is normal as apple pie and anything else that comes along with being an American, so to speak. I say that for those who are listening and can't see, I put that in air quotes. What American is. Man, I waver back and forth, and I think for me it's been really hard to sleep. Um, in regards to you talking about the Civil War, think about all these gun shops that don't have guns anymore because everybody's buying up stuff. Shotguns and so my other homegirls just taking some shooting lessons at a local gun range. I'm like, okay, are people getting ready for this? And it's like, dang, man, as much as we have hope, man, it's also like this, like, man, this is not where I wanted to be, you know.
No,
You know.
no, not at all. I mean, not at all. And I no, I think I think that's what we got to do. We got to kind of pull together what we see in maybe one sphere and maybe in another sphere that we thought were like separate,
Right.
and then put those things together. We know that Trump was elected through some kind of rage fueled anger. It tapped into some kind of anger,
Yeah.
right? We know what kind it was. You saw how he became, uh, how he kind of entered into the political world, you know, off of birtherism, right? You know, off of like questioning. Now, who would ever put that together? That questioning the president's, it's that gaslighting and signaling, and for those who are like receptive to it, they're like, it taps into, so it's not to be underestimated. He's got to master it, and it's very,
I don't know.
they're effective, but 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 you can't say, well, just because like half the other rest of the country, or arguably more, slightly more than half, I hope it's more than half of the country doesn't support him and is so repugnant and so disdainful to us, doesn't mean that that everybody is seeing it that same way. And we're not used to having a president say, I'm going to be a president for just half the country.
Right.
Now, see, that's when you start like, there's all these, that's a sign, those are signs.
Yeah.
The house divided upon itself cannot stand. Lincoln said right from that last time the house was this divided, getting to that. So there's a lot of echoes. And I think that, we shouldn't be fearful, but we should just take what we know from history, and use it to like have a clear picture of what the heck is happening. Because it is very disorienting right now.
Yeah. So, as we say, back to the lab without a mic to grab, really getting back in here and figuring this thing out. And we got to develop some more of these. And it was a young lady we were speaking to today, and she was like, being asked what she wanted to do with her life, because, she was in a senior year trying to figure it out. And my colleague got with her like, listen, if you're trying to get into law, guess who's about to run for vice president right now? Guess who's in and running? A black woman who was all about was it criminal justice reform and things like that. So why can't you do the same thing? And she has that type of same concern and care and attention to detail that needs to be coddled. So I think for us as college administrators and faculty, it is our duty and obligation to make sure we instill some of these things in this generation coming up. So creating these pathways and pipelines for them to get into these places. So once again, they can work with that counter narrative and kind of change the story up a little bit, because not as they say, it's at Game of Thrones, not today.
No,
today.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's it. And I think the other thing we had, I wanted to not to forget to say too is that if we're right, and there's all these things are, there are hate crimes on the law books. There are a lot of these acts, a lot of these things that are happening. I think it's real important to try to, like, as we plan, and as we're in the midst of a movement and also planning for the rest of it, and then what it looks like afterwards, is this idea of truth and reconciliation committee that, speaking again of Dr. Asari, Abin Asari, my colleague and our colleague in African Studies, she wrote a book about truth and reconciliation in Ghana. And I think it's one of the reasons that book has become very, very, very powerful, very popular, and won awards, is because that's kind of like the model we ought to be looking at for all these things that are happening right now. These lynchings, these attempts to lynch, racial epitaphs, language that's being used. We need to keep track of all these things. There'll be a backlog, but there'll be a time that these things need to be, the law really needs to be brought to bear and enforced. I don't know what the statute of limitations is, but it's probably usually 10 years. So I guess we got to get to work on it. But these things cannot pass, later. People want to get, or think it's safe to, spew out this hatred and this kind of like evil out there because Trump's in office and they think they have a green light. Got another thing coming because You know, those laws are on the book, they are enforceable, and they are punishable by law. So,
Yeah.
you know, just
So
do the right thing. You got to self-regulate right now because, you know, there's a lot of openness to just all kinds of mayhem.
yeah, man. Right on. I mean, I couldn't say it any better. Truth and reconciliation is definitely the motto as we move forward. Yeah, man. So I think this has been a great kind of like debrief of some time we had off from the last time we spoke, and been a lot of
Yeah.
things going on. And for those that are listening, we are definitely going to be coming back to you all a lot more frequently because as we get up to November, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some things to talk about. But you know, we're going to have situations where we have special guests on, and also they have to check in because I think it's important that we check in
Yeah.
on a regular basis, and maybe we can get some of our colleagues to jump on a little bit and have some real talk, some chatting and chewing. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's the time to do that now. And so I look forward to welcoming our next guest back. We needed this chance to just test the waters ourselves, get back,
yeah,
dip that toe in, check
yeah,
it out, you know, and so much to take in and just keep, you know, keep it fresh and keep it, you know, keep it moving. We'll have a lot more in store coming up.
yeah, man. So on that note, we're gonna roll out of here, and like I said, we'll be putting this up pretty soon. But like I said, Reject the Stone podcast is real talk about real issues in real time, and it is time for us to say farewell. But we'll be back, and as we always say before we roll out, Twin Day.
Twin Day.
All right, and we are out of here.